Greetings. I'm your host, Glen Alex, and this is the Glen Alex Show, the 2023 Positive Change Podcast Award winner. Each episode of the Glen Alex Show focuses on a different aspect of health because I believe in total health. You're a whole, and all of you matter. And I am on a mission to help you be joyful, connected, confident, and complete, the life experience we call WELLTH, WELLTH, which is health plus other riches. So just think about that for a moment, because if more of us were living in total health or even in pursuit of it, then the world would be safer and loving for everyone. Because physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually healthy and balanced people do not intentionally harm self or others. So please join us on this journey. Hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for this very important episode on love.
Welcome to the Glen Alex Show, where your health matters, set your mind, let it flow. Joyful, connected, confident, complete. Let Glen Alex help you back on your feet. The Glen Alex Show.
Please help me welcome my guest, Ben Uana, who is a healer and a very, very wise individual. Hi, Ben. How are you?
Wonderful, Glenn. Thank you for bringing me on today.
Oh, thank you so much for making the time. I do appreciate it. So how about you take a moment and tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Well, briefly, from childhood, I was drawn to Indigenous peoples, starting with Native Americans, and I found myself living in a community, predominantly Kiowa Indian, started going into the ceremonies, and I ended up apprenticing with one of the last surviving traditional doctors, an actual medicine man among the Kiowa tribe. He passed on portions of his own healing gifts. And then traditionally, the vision quest you go through to earn the right to work with these gifts of healing, you go fast alone in the mountains without food and water, 4 days and nights. And so that started this whole process of evolution.
Okay. And so specifically, what work are you doing now?
Wow, I work in that context. People come to me with a wide range of issues, heart disease, stroke,
Okay.
digestive disorders, but also the fact that as I was coming up into my 20s and the traumas of my childhood and adolescence were re-emerging, and I found myself reenacting that in my attempts to form romantic relationships as I began to develop attachments. And so because of that, I had to find a means to heal my own woundedness. And I ended up also teaching classes where people were going through breakup and divorce,
Okay.
dealing with abandonment, unrequited love, and helping them to heal those wounds.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll get into that a little more in a moment. I'm curious though, a lot of people are drawn to certain paths, to certain careers, to different avenues of and ways of living. What enabled you to follow what you were drawn to? Does that
There
make
was some profoundly deep knowing, this desire. And like I said, that being pulled to these native indigenous peoples and having this profound fascination, curiosity, because even as a teen, I'd be looking around, see people get up and get themselves ready, go to school, go to work, come home, watch TV. And it's like, it didn't seem like much of a life to me.
okay.
And when I heard about these indigenous healers and going through the vision quest and these profound experiences that have, and some of them even possessing paranormal abilities, it's like, wow, if ever given the opportunity, this is what I will do with my life. And so
Okay.
that's how that I got pulled into this.
Okay, well, I am glad you followed your deep knowing, your intuition.
Yeah, our deeper instinctual nature.
Okay. Okay, very good. Now, when you talk about healing from love wounds, was that did the healing come out of working um, on your quest, or how did that come about? You beginning to work out those issues for yourself?
It was a combination of things. Initially, I was flailing blindly, and I found myself consumed by like all this overwhelming, excruciatingly painful emotions. And somehow I had an instinctive sense that I needed to dive into the depths of them.
Okay.
And I, diving into all of those emotions, I would be breathing very softly and deeply. And at a certain point, I could feel the pain breaking open and coming out of my body in waves. And then there'd be these emanations of warmth that were beginning to emerge from within. That was one important component. And then I started incorporating various therapeutic interventions, deep tissue body work. I got to work with some extraordinarily powerfully gifted healers. And then as I started going back to do the vision quest, that 4 days and nights fasting alone in the mountains without the food and water, and I would feel this presence working within my body. I sometimes relived traumatic events from my past, as well as what was going on at that time. And I could feel that presence working to transform these deeply wounding experiences. I'd be digesting the experiences, the emotions, and it would be enabling me to build this foundation I didn't have before. And from that, I could relate in ways that are much healthier.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Well, again, many people are pulled towards something better, something healthier, and yet they ignore that the gravity that's pulling them to live better and to be better.
Mhm.
Even though dealing with these wounds is uncomfortable, unpleasant, downright painful,
Mhm.
what enabled you to go there anyway?
For me, there was no escape. And I see so many other individuals who distract themselves, their cultural mindset of don't go there, don't feel it, don't acknowledge it, suppressing, denying, avoiding emotions,
Mm-hmm.
or just whatever addictions or chemical dependencies to alcohol and other recreational drugs or food or sex addiction, just
Yes.
whatever it is. But I couldn't escape. I saw no way out other than to just go through the middle of it. I felt I had no other choice.
Okay. Okay. From healing yourself and from the work you do with others, what are maybe one or two of the biggest mistakes or common errors that people make when they go into romantic relationships?
There's a way in which many of us are blinded, and it's a combination of the fact that we carry this emotional wounding, and it creates this filter through which we perceive other individuals,
Mm-hmm.
and it distorts our vision. And there's also the whole biochemical component of the dopamine that makes us feel like, oh, I got to be with this person. That's the one. And norepinephrine, the song by the Police, everything she does is magic. And oxytocin that makes us feel that magical connection or bond and all these things at work. Oh, of course, testosterone and estrogen. And so we feel we have these magical connections, but it could be very deceptive. And just the fact that the way we avoid our emotions and the issues that are uncomfortable and and it sets us up to get into relationships. We seriously need to commit to facing the issues head on and when we're triggered emotionally, to go into those emotions and digest them. And by taking the steps to heal, we can utilize our relationships as a means to heal and grow, to evolve.
Okay. So if we use our relationships as that means to heal and to grow and to evolve, how do we do that with that filter?
Our relationships are going to reflect back to us their deepest emotional wounds. Those wounds, in many instances, we carry the wounding from childhood, whether some of us did experience various forms of trauma, maybe our most basic needs in many instances. And I do want to say, I feel for the most part, our parents were doing the best they could with the understanding
That they had.
and the resources they possessed. But sometimes those needs weren't met, or maybe there were these profound dysfunctions. And so we tend to attract individuals who reflect back to us the emotional wounding that we carry. And also, some of this wounding is from previous romantic relationships in our lives, times where we were ghosted. Maybe we got involved with people or individuals who were wounding in our teens or up into our
Okay.
20s and on. And so when we're encountering whatever kind of dynamic that's playing out in our relationship and it's triggering us emotionally, I find it's important to acknowledge what's happening, what we feel in response to it, what are the feelings, where these feelings are situated in our body, bring our awareness into the depth of these feelings, breathing softly and deeply. We need to be processing or digesting these feelings. And that by doing so, that brings us greater awareness, insight, and understanding. We can see more clearly into what's happening and also be making use of the most effective therapeutic healing interventions.
Okay. Okay. Well, I like when you say digest the hurt. I read that on your website, and um, that's a pretty interesting way to describe the healing process. What do you mean by digest the hurt?
It's both the emotional component and the lived experience itself. A lot of times we are so much up in our heads, we're thinking, analyzing, but when we can bring those interactions, those experiences, those individuals into our awareness, and we notice what it is we feel, we center our awareness in those feelings and bodily sensations. We're breathing softly and deeply. It enables us to activate this deeper innate healing intelligence that resides within our bodies
Hmm.
and minds. As we continue to breathe with those feelings and sensations, we're literally processing or we're digesting the experience, our subsequent cognitive and emotional responses. It's like the food you eat needs to be digested. We need to digest the experience, our emotions, and sometimes we also need the assistance of these therapeutic interventions to help us to process these experiences as well.
Okay. How do you work with someone's resistance to, I don't know, breathing through their pain or their past experiences? How do you deal with the resistance?
Each person varies on that continuum between some people are willing to just go there. They've tried all kinds of things and had varying degrees of success or lack thereof. And others are just like, I don't want to feel. And that can be difficult because our ability to heal is so contingent on our willingness to dive into the depths. So I will sense into each individual how far I can take them. Some I can get them a little ways into it. Some people have so numbed themselves that maybe they could only access physical sensations. Whatever I can get them to feel, I will take them
Okay.
there. And intuitively, I'm feeling how deep I get them. the deeper I could get them, lead them down into the depth of the feelings, the more profound the change.
Okay. Okay. And what approaches do you use other than your intuition? Um, do you use, I don't know, what other interventions do you use? Methods do you use to get your clients to feel what they feel when they feel it?
Some of it initially, like I said, it's, for instance, if someone's going through a breakup or divorce, if they're struggling with abandonment or unrequited love, I'll have them picture that individual or imagine themselves in the midst of the dynamic playing
Mm.
out in the relationship or lack thereof.
Okay.
Hold it in their awareness, feel whatever they can feel, and center their awareness where those feelings reside, fully immerse themselves in the feelings, breathing very softly, very deeply. That's the practice itself. That's one version of the practice.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's how I lead people in. I can describe other practices later, but that's the initial version.
Okay. Well, I'd like to hear about another version now, if that's okay.
Okay. Well, one of the things I notice is that there's all kinds of emotion and lived experience locked up in different parts of the body. And there's a lot of numbing or disconnect, dissociation. And so sometimes I will have people just center their awareness in the chest cavity where the heart and lungs reside. Other times, maybe I'll take them down deep into the intestines themselves. And I know when I first did this, for instance, going into the chest cavity, at first I experienced a lot of numbness, wasn't registering much, but as I kept doing this night after night, there were faint vapors of feeling. Then it got
Mm.
stronger every night, longing, emptiness. After a while, my whole chest cavity was aching. And as I kept processing these emotions, I could feel this outpouring, like this feeling of connectedness to a higher power. And I noticed that there was this clearing out, and there was like it just removed a lot of the barriers so that it became easier to connect with other individuals. I was drawn more love into my life.
Okay. I was going there with you as you were describing it. It sounds very liberating.
Very. Mhm.
Okay.
It's only a taste, though. It's barely a taste.
Okay. And how does dealing with the grief and fear that gets trapped in the body, these wounds, how getting freeing them from the body, how does that impact health?
The grief, the sadness, the hurt, I mean, that accumulates within the body. And I don't know that I could say it's going to be or manifest as a specific illness, as heart disease or a stroke or digestive disorder or something, but eventually these emotions, these stresses, and I feel it's many different issues or challenges over time that I'll work with people that I have a lot of people coming to me in their 50s and 60s and 70s, and they've gone through their lives and they've just avoided, they just didn't want to deal with a lot of things. Maybe they just didn't know how. And over time, it precipitates some major health crises. And so I will encounter those individuals. They experience the heart attack or stroke or cancer or maybe some major accident or something. And years, decades of all this emotional wounding they haven't dealt with, and it's all coming out, and it's
Mm.
a lot to address all at once because I'm addressing, again, being trained by a traditional Native American doctor, the physiological issues, facilitating the healing thereof, but also this massive cleanup of years or decades of all the emotional backlog that they haven't dealt with.
Okay. So in working with someone, for example, who has heart disease,
Yes.
and you work on the physical illness, if they don't work on the other emotional issues that are repressed, how well do they heal the illness?
By the time they have what I refer to as major blowout, another kind of slangy way of saying it is they blow a gasket. They're so flooded with all this emotion, they're consumed by it. By that point, it's difficult for them to avoid it.
Okay.
Now, other times I've had individuals come to me, maybe they're in their 20s and 30s, and they're struggling with a lot of these digestive issues, Crohn's disease, colitis, irritable bowel. And I've had some individuals who were incredibly resistant. They just don't want to feel. And one individual that I worked with, Manhattan's Upper East Side, it was like, I don't want to go there, just fix the problem. And I'd have her with her eyes closed 5 minutes. Can I open my eyes now? And it took a lot longer. She would have these uncontrollable bouts of diarrhea and very reactive emotionally. It amazes me that she even stuck with the process. In her case, it took a year and a half. I've had other individuals like 5, 6 sessions, and they were in enormous pain to begin with, passing blood in their stools.
Mm,
And yet, 5 or 6 sessions, they healed from ulcerative colitis and no longer in pain or passing blood in their stools. Even the woman on the Upper East Side is, even though it took that long and not dealing with the emotional component slowed it
okay.
down dramatically, but eventually she got to where she could eat pretty much whatever she wanted within
Okay.
reason, and it did heal. It just took a whole lot longer.
Okay. Okay. Now, am I able to ask if do you use hypnosis? Do you use uh, supplements, herbs, or anything in your treatments?
I don't.
Okay.
Initially, it's teaching them these specific forms of mindful meditation practices. It's a
Okay.
system that I developed. But being trained by a traditional Native American doctor, indigenous healers act as conduits. We allow other forces, beings, and other presence to work through us. And
Okay.
so I will have these individuals laying on the massage table that I use and with their eyes closed, and I allow this presence to work through me. And some people feel this presence going down into the body, doing reconstructive, regenerative work. So if they're suffering from colitis or Crohn's disease, other individuals who were injured in an automobile accident or sports injury, they feel that presence going in, just doing corrective work
Hmm.
to mend the damage within their bodies. And so that their digestive issues, as I'm working with them, will go through this process of repair and their digestion improves dramatically. Or one individual is in an automobile accident where he was hit broadside. The seatbelt snapped. He went flying, spinning in the air, landed on the pavement, a huge road rash
Wow.
on his right side. And after working with him, in his case, after the first session, he was able to go back to work doing construction, whereas
Okay.
before he was in excruciating pain and hunched over. But afterwards, back to work doing construction.
Wow. Well, do you work virtually as well, or is it all in person?
I can do some work virtually. I much prefer to work in person because I can teach the practices, the system of mindful meditation practices over the phone, anywhere, anyone in the world. People do tell me they feel some transmission of power. I like to deliver 100%. I feel tremendous concern for each individual I work with.
Okay.
And what I find is when I'm able to work in person, there is so much more that is done, that presence working through me, working, going into the body to do this regenerative process, and much, much more can happen. So whether a person can travel to see me, there are times where people say, well, look, you want to come to just yesterday, I was speaking with someone. They're having me come to the San Francisco Bay Area. I will
Oh,
stay
okay.
for about 6 days and be working one-on-one with these individuals, this
Wow.
family and their friends.
Okay.
So I will do whatever I can on people's behalf because I'm committed to get the results.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Where are you located though?
At the moment, I'm in northern Idaho. I will be in New York City off and on for about 4 weeks.
Okay.
And upstate New York, San Francisco
Okay.
Bay Area,
So you move around.
Kansas City area. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, wherever. There are times I've worked in Europe. I've spent a lot of time in India, Sri Lanka. So I move about.
Okay. Okay. Well, as a clinical social worker, I know the importance of having really good mental and emotional boundaries
Mhm.
to so I don't take my clients' stuff and as my own. How do you take care of yourself after being 100% involved in your clients' care and treatment?
I'm fortunate that serving as a conduit, as I said, like these traditional Native healers among the Native Americans, other indigenous groups, that there's a protective function
Mhm.
that helps me to process, transform. I do notice at times that my body is utilized as I'm working with people to help with the processing of the trauma, the wounding that these people carry. But there's this protective process so that I don't take on or internalize. I do have to be careful to make sure I am getting adequate sleep. I think the biggest challenge for me is the airlines in more recent years, especially with what they call code sharing, where they've all partnered up. So they are packing the flights at 90 something percent occupancy. And
Mhm.
when you're sitting jammed up next to each
Yes.
other and the rows are closer. And so after I get off the plane, I will just sit and I will breathe all the sensations I feel in my body and just kind of bleed out that residual from people around me, and also doing walking meditation. I will just drop down into the feelings and sensations. I could feel my aura, the electromagnetic field around me expanding,
Okay.
and the Earth's electromagnetic field interacting with my own, and I could feel this dissipation of that residual that I would pick up being on planes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I have clients who have been dealing with, say, anxiety for most of their lives.
Yes,
And some have said that they waited so long to get help because they thought it would just go away. You know, that adage, time heals all wounds.
it doesn't.
It doesn't. What else is needed?
We need the intervention, like the practices that I was describing. One of the most basic practices, again, I've developed a whole series, is acknowledge what it is that's challenging you. Person, circumstance, situation, issue concerning you, acknowledge it. That's one. Two, what do you feel in response to it? Three, where these emotions, these stresses, where do they reside in your body? Fully immerse your awareness. Go where you feel it, whether it's in your chest cavity, your abdomen, where is it in your body? Fully immerse your awareness and the depth of those feelings and sensations. Breathing as softly and deeply as you can. In saying that, breathe all the way down to your abdomen. Expand your rib cage. If you're just breathing shallowly, those feelings don't process. When you
Okay.
breathe very, expanding your rib cage, taking those full, deep breaths as slowly, as deeply as you can, it engages the deeper innate healing intelligence. And as you're processing, as you're digesting these experiences, that helps you, enables you to process these lived experiences. Combine the most effective interventions, whether it's with a psychotherapist, you're doing deep tissue body work, you're working with a gifted healer such as myself, and if you're really hardcore, maybe even go through the Vision Quest.
Okay. Okay. Now, for those of us who can't travel to you or meet you wherever you're going to be, are your mindfulness practices, meditations available?
You can reach out to me through my
Okay.
website,
Okay.
benuana.com, through my Google Voice number, 332-333-5155. There's, you can go through the contact page on my website.
Okay.
There is a link, refiningrelationships.com, and you can just book a session with me for that. But a lot of people are
Okay.
dealing with other kinds of issues. You can reach out to me. I do feel tremendous concern. If it's some issue that I'm not able to address, I will tell you that straight out. And if there are other interventions that I feel will be more advantageous for you, I will tell you that as well. I want you to get the assistance, the intervention you need. However, if I can work with you as well, I will let you know how
Okay.
I can assist you. If you can't travel to where I am located, the practices will still be for the vast majority of individuals, will be a vast benefit to you. If there are other interventions I feel you need to combine, whether it's psychotherapy, working with an acupuncturist, doing the deep tissue body work, again, I want to see you get the results you need. And so other interventions that I feel will benefit you, I will recommend them because I want you to heal
Okay.
and be evolving.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Now, talk about as I was growing up, and even in some of my schooling, they would always talk about opposites attract, and I always believed and um, kind of followed Harville Hendrix in talking when he talked about you attract your complement. You attract the person who complements your character, your traits, your needs, your desires, etc. So when you talk about attracting healthier companions, how does that fit for you?
Initially, I find that many of us have a tendency to attract individuals who reflect our emotional wounding. Uh, Now, some individuals are just fortunate in that maybe they do attract someone into their life who is very loving and very nurturing. But if you're carrying that emotional wounding, and if it is not being addressed, what often happens is those parts of you that carry the trauma or the wounding stay in that contracted state. So you're not able to be as fully engaged and present as you could be. You're not able to be fully participatory in the relationship. However, as you take the steps to heal, your relationships do evolve. You tend to attract healthier individuals into your life with whom you can create more meaningful and more deeply fulfilling relationships. But what you will find, though, is that there are individuals who possess other resources or capabilities or strengths because none of us are fully rounded. When you attract someone who is maybe more assertive and more on top of detail, if you observe those changes within them, to the best of your ability, I feel it's a good idea we need to be as more well-rounded as possible. Like as we observe that we have certain deficits or if we lack certain capabilities,
Mhm.
how can we model those qualities being reflected back to us by our partner? Does that
Okay.
make sense?
That makes total sense. That makes total sense. And you're preaching to the choir.
Another thing is that I feel one mistake a lot of people make is that they're waiting for somebody to come along and make them complete. There's a little too much, sometimes a lot too much emphasis on finding that special person,
Yeah.
finding the love of their life. And sure, we do want that. It's one of our most basic human needs. But I really want to emphasize the importance of becoming and being your best self. I place too much emphasis on finding that special someone. And what I found is the more that I committed myself to, like, okay, what am I here to do in this lifetime? And the more I did that, and the more all you, the less listeners out there,
Hmm.
emphasize becoming your best self, you're more likely to attract the kind of individuals into your life with whom you can establish that more deeply, more meaningful and fulfilling relationship.
Absolutely. And you'll attract people who will support your best self.
You're more likely to be in the right places and
Yes.
the right time when you're living in accordance with your deeper purpose and mission in life.
Yes. I agree. I totally agree. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for your depth, your wisdom, your expertise. Now, if you can wrap this up into one nugget, or what's the one takeaway you want the audience to have about healing love wounds? What is it?
We're all going to face challenges in one form or another. It could be in our professional lives, and a lot of times these are carryovers from it could be childhood wounding, or maybe that wounding or those limitations may be reflected to us by those individuals that we find ourselves attracted to or that we end up getting into a relationship with. But whatever challenges are whatever it is that's triggering you, if you take that and to the best of your ability, you say that, okay, so this is what's being reflected back to me. How can I use this? Not every person or situation is a reflection of your emotional wounding, but there is a lot of it that is. And if you could just take the mindset of, okay, how can I utilize this as a means to heal and evolve? So it's triggering you emotionally, work with those emotions and utilize the most effective therapeutic interventions. And I took this focus of, okay, process the emotions and develop the resources, develop the foundation, and continually use it as a means through which you grow. You heal the woundedness and you grow as an individual and you evolve. You're becoming more of yourself.
Okay. That's pretty powerful. Pretty
Mhm.
powerful. Thank you. Thank you
Oh,
so
thank you.
much. Ben, I really appreciate your time and your energy. And thank you so much for the work that you are doing as a healer. I, I can only imagine the global impact it has. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I very much enjoy engaging with you.
Well, you take care and I hope to see you soon.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you. Mhm.
You're welcome. Thank you again for tuning into this episode of The Glen Alex Show. We really hope you learned how healing love wounds can enhance your overall health. So please like, subscribe, and share this episode.
Refresh your spirit with a nourishing thought.
Please allow me to leave you with this nourishing thought. Lucille Ball said, "Love yourself first, and everything else falls into line." You really have to love yourself to get anything done in this world. It's February, the time of year we celebrate romantic love. While Valentine's Day can be exciting and loving, it's only one day. That means for the most of the remaining year, love is not a priority. My hope for humanity is that we experience and share authentic love daily and beyond romance. Getting there, however, requires a deeper understanding of what true love is and why it's so vital for each of us individually and for the collective humankind. Healing wounds from abuse, trauma, separation, divorce, and grief is the path to love's abundance. Healing means that you honor yourself enough to acknowledge your pain, to seek help, to do the work, and to love you, which will enable you to more authentically love others. To learn more about authentic love in your health, please visit glenalex.com, order your copy of my award-winning book, Living in Total Health, read my blogs, and book your complimentary consultation with me. Then, tune in to the next episode of The Glen Alex Show, the 2023 Positive Change Podcast Award winner. And until next time, be well.